On June 17, 2022, a Graby tweeted, "Every lifelong Catholic I've ever met is like, I think we're supposed to give this food to poor people. And every adult convert is like, the Archon of Constantinople's epistle on the Pentecostal rites of the Eucharist clearly states women shouldn't have driver's licenses." This is the Museum of Twitter, the show we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. It's Subscriber Sunday, where my Patreon subscribers vote on which tweet I cover, and they selected this one, which will surely not get anyone mad. The thing I want to say up front is that this tweet is in generalities. I agree that this does not apply to every member of either of these groups. A very common criticism of the tweet when it was first tweeted is that most lifelong Catholics aren't actually like give food to the poor, and I think that that's fair. But I think that the gist of the tweet, the point it's trying to make about people who convert to Catholicism, is mostly true. And I think the reason it's important, because just an observation about different types of Catholics is not necessarily an important tweet. I think it's important because we've seen such an uptick in trad Cath converts. If you don't know about trad Caths, one, I'm really happy for you, and two, don't bother looking into it. Basically, it's just people who have usually converted to Catholicism who want to live a very traditional version of it. It's very patriarchal, it's very retrograde, and they're the people who say things like the Archon of Constantinople's epistle on the Pentecostal rites of the Eucharist clearly states women shouldn't have driver's licenses. Now, I was someone who was raised Catholic, and when I say raised, I mean in a fairly general sense. Very much only going to church on Christmas and Easter, and even often not that. But I did go to Sunday school, I was confirmed, and I think this tweet is absolutely correct about, is that like the arcane discussions and decrees in the Catholic Church in the last 2,000 years, this doesn't come up usually in most Catholic mass, at least in none I've been to. And a lot of my dad's side of the family is very Catholic. Like, I have an uncle who goes to church several times a week. And he's very open about his faith. I think it's been fairly positive for him, and I've never once heard him reference some edict from 1605. It is generally the, help the poor, be kind to your neighbor, that stuff. And if you think that this is all nonsense, that this is all completely made up, no one actually thinks this way, I have a reply that I think puts it in stark relief. C.A. Schultz, who presumably is a Catholic convert, replied, "Nah, fuck you, frankly. Those converts actually believe that Jesus is God, that Jesus literally rose from the dead, that Jesus established the church to spread the gospel to the world. What do cradle Catholics believe? Just be nice to people? Give me a fucking break." This guy thinks that cradle Catholics are wrong, that they should take more seriously the stuff about Jesus being God and all the edicts that were issued over the last 2,000 years. But personally, I think if you were trying to poo-poo the idea of being nice to people, you're probably in the wrong. Like, I'm no longer religious, but I did outgrow my 15-year-old atheist phase, but I do really feel like if the arcane rules of religion are more important to you than the messages about being kind to one's neighbors, that's a you problem, and you should probably look within to figure out why that is. And I think that Vic Russo, who replied the same day, actually hit the nail on the head of why this happens. They said, "Convert trad Caths are drawn to the church due to aesthetics and never lose their Protestant view of the purpose of religion. As an ex-Catholic, it's actually kind of infuriating to see." Because as someone who moved to Florida when he was 9, so grew up around a lot of Protestants, that's really what I notice in a lot of these convert trad Caths. The way that they talk about religion is way more similar to the ways that the super Protestant people I knew talk about religion than any Catholics I ever knew. And beyond the rise of trad Cath influencers, I think another reason why this tweet has grown so much in importance and is referenced a lot is because the man who was the vice president. Like, every bad thing you could say about convert Catholics very much applies to J.D. Vance. Like, it's not lost on me that the most vocal Catholic convert alive is on the no we shouldn't side of the debate of whether or not we should accept refugees. And I don't know, I'm not a biblical scholar, but I feel like being kind to poor people who are refugees is like the most basic Catholic thing in the world. Like I said, I'm not a practicing Catholic, so I can't speak with a lot of authority here, but it's like, if you didn't get into Catholicism for the helping poor people part, I'm very suspicious as to why you got into Catholicism. In the replies to a Graby's tweet, Real Atheology responded with an image from r/Catholicism, where someone posted, "I'm a 17-year-old atheist who wants to join the church because it's the based and traditionalist reactionary thing to do. Can someone fill me in on what Christianity is all about?" Because that's what it feels like a lot of adult Catholic converts are like. The love thy neighbor and good work stuff, yada yada yada, let's do all the based and reactionary stuff is what they really care about. Kevin's disk drive quoted Graby's tweet and said, "Not to say lifelong Catholics are inherently good, but converts be so intense and scary. Like, the crusades are over, friend. You don't have to be like this." And in case you think he's exaggerating talking about the crusades, he's really not. A Graby's tweet was used a lot in response to this tweet from this guy Adrian, who tweeted, "My zeal for the Catholic Church is so strong that if Pope Leo called for a new crusade, I'd be the first one signing up." And it's like, do you volunteer at your local homeless shelter? Do you give to a food bank? Do you mentor underprivileged children? Like, it's a little suspicious that the way you want to serve the church is in a crusade and not, good works. Elizabeth here quoted a Graby's tweet with a screenshot from Jack Harper, who said, "Churches singing worship songs written by women is an abomination." And Elizabeth says, when she posts have real-life examples. He's like, "Man, feels like you're missing the point of all this." Not that I ever have to hand it to race scientist Richard Hanania, but I do think he makes a really good point here. Most Catholic converts would be happier and less damaging to society if they got really into Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones instead of whatever this is. Because that's what it comes down to, right? On top of the misogyny and wanting to live in a patriarchal society, Catholicism to them seems like the closest thing to like fantasy aesthetics in the real world. And that's fine, fantasy aesthetics are cool. But, like, that's what Renaissance festivals and live-action role-playing is for. Follow me for a new tweet every day, and if you want to vote on what I cover on Subscriber Sundays, please go to patreon.com/Museum of Twitter, and there you will also get access to my Discord, and you'll get access to the weekly episode of the Museum of Not Twitter.